It's a new day and a new English lesson. Today's lesson is going to be essentially talking about the cultural differences between the countries around the world. We're going to read an experience which is mainly highlighting the cultural gap between the two greatest powers in the world, which is China and America. Today's reading lesson is entitled The All-American Slurp by Lindsay Nemoyoka, illustrated by Stephen George. The genre today is realistic fiction. The realistic fiction stories are made-up stories about things that could really happen. As you read, notice the moments that seem realistic. Question of the week: how can we understand and appreciate our cultural differences? How can we understand and appreciate our cultural differences? First of all, I'm going to leave you with a video which is going to highlight for you the gap or the differences between the Eastern and the Western communities. And after that, let us get back to the reading lesson and the new vocab.
From the moment we're born, we begin to develop our identities. Who are we? What should we care about? And how should we relate to all these people around us? As it turns out, the way each of us answers these questions largely depends on the culture we grow up in. One major difference between cultures in the East and the West is how they view the individual in relation to the group. Some cultures tend to place more importance on the individual. They're known as individualistic or me societies. Many Western societies, including those in the United States, Australia, and large swaths of Europe, are considered me cultures. People in a me culture believe each individual is responsible for their own well-being. Their circle of responsibility extends only to their immediate family members, parents, spouses, or children. They view their responsibility to others in society, like their neighbors or classmates, as limited. After all, they're also individuals who should be taking care of themselves. On the other hand, some cultures place more importance on the group. They're called collectivist societies, or we cultures. Many Eastern cultures, including those in China, India, and Japan, are considered we cultures. People in a we culture prioritize strong social ties and belonging to a larger group. These groups might include classmates, neighbors, and extended families. They strive for group harmony and believe the individual should make the best decisions for the overall well-being of their group. If you take care of the group, they'll take care of you. So how does this me versus we difference shape our behavior? As it turns out, this seemingly subtle distinction has some surprising effects. Imagine two families each go out to dinner. The family from a me culture might consist of just 4 people, 2 parents and their 2 children. The family from a we culture would need a much larger table to make room for 2 children, their cousins, and multiple sets of parents and grandparents. At the me table, everyone would order the specific meal they wanted. When the food comes, they may trade a bite or 2, but for the most part, each person would eat their own meal. At the we table, on the other hand, multiple dishes would be ordered for the whole table. They would be placed in the center, and all members of the family would share them. Now, let's say a family member was running late. How is each table likely to respond? At the me table, people are expected to be masters of their own fate. So when teenage brother Lee arrives late, the family is more likely to attribute his tardiness to some fundamental aspect of Lee's personality, like assuming he is lazy or irresponsible. At the we table, on the other hand, they're more likely to see Lee's behavior as part of a larger context. Rather than blaming him for being lazy, they may assume external factors were involved. Maybe there was an accident on the road, and Lee got caught in bad traffic. This tendency to either credit the individual or the larger context applies to positive things too. Say Lee was coming from a basketball game where he scored a game-winning shot. At the me table, Lee would be celebrated as the hero. His individual action won the game for the whole team. In a celebratory toast, Lee would likely speak about how his hard work, determination, and focus led him to this moment. Meanwhile, at the wheat table, the team's overall victory would be celebrated. Lee's toast would more likely focus on how his teammates, coaches, and mentors led to the team's success. He may even mention a larger context, like the support of the team's school administration or fan base. Both of these viewpoints are true. Lee's actions secured the victory, but the team's effort won the game. There is no objective, right or wrong way to think about individuals versus groups. What works for one culture just may not work for another. It's also important to remember that culture is only one of the many factors that influence who we are. So some people from a we culture may prioritize the individual, and some me culture people may value their communities over themselves. Culture is never all that we are, but as one of those invisible forces that shape us, it's well worth knowing a little more about. So the next time the behavior of someone from another culture seems weird or even rude, try asking yourself, how did they grow up to understand the world? Could my behavior seem as weird from their viewpoint? Cultural differences don't hold all the answers, but they can help us begin to understand each other and appreciate the richness and variety of human societies.
And now after watching the video, I think you can highlight which community you are living in. Is it a we or a me community? And now, open with me page 391, Reading Street Book. Reading Street Book 391. A Party for Mom. A Party for Mom. I'm going to read for you this page, and after that, you're going to complete the topic alone. When Mom was promoted at work, our family had a party to celebrate. We were all proud of her progress in the company. She had been employed at Merit Controls for only 3 years, and she had been made a manager. I hoped Dad wasn't planning to serve any revolting foods, such as avocado or broccoli, at the party. Of all the foods I dislike, those are my least favorite. To my relief, my parents put me in charge of the chips, dip, and relish trays. My orders were to be sure that there were plenty of eye-popping green, red, and orange colors of those trays. The pickles were green. I added green food coloring to pop them up. Maraschino cherries were red, and cheese curds added to orange-yellow color. When I saw my parents' shock, I knew I had disgraced myself. That's not what we meant, they sputtered in unison. They had wanted peppers, cherry tomatoes, and carrots. Then the doorbell rang. It was too late to change the trays. I beat a retreat to my room then and there. Later, I found out that because the trays were so interesting and different, they turned out to be a big hit with all the guests. That was the party for a mom. Party for a mom. Okay, before we start giving the meaning of all the words, let us get the summary of the story, which is from page 392 to page 407. 392, 407. The summary of the story for a girl and her family which immigrate from China to America. They get invited to their neighbor's house for their first American dinner. They realize American etiquette was much different from the Chinese etiquette. So, they don't know exactly how to react. Later on, they go to a fancy restaurant for dinner, and the narrator is embarrassed by our family's obnoxious slurping. After that, the Lin family invites the Glassons to their house for the Chinese dinner. The girl and Mick go for a milkshake that night. And after Mick gets asked if she always slurps, she just answers, all Americans slurp. And then let us move to the theme. The theme of our story that people really aren't all that different. They aren't that different because the Glassons' dinner party wasn't so different from the Chinese meal after all. Even if your family embarrasses you, you cannot leave. They are still your family. A girl cannot just leave because they slurp their soup. The heritage here, always appreciate your heritage, or appreciate your culture, appreciate your customs. That's it. Then let us move to the characters. Here we have a look on the characters because I will not read them. And after that, the plot. We have, of course, in the plot the exposition. We have the rising action. We have the climax. We have the falling action and the resolution. Exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. Then moving to the conflict. The narrator wants to blend in as an American citizen. Because we know that the narrator was a Chinese girl, right? The narrator was embarrassed that they brought terrorists to the buffet table at the Glassons' house. The Glassons didn't use proper Chinese etiquette. There was a conflict between people and themselves and people and the community and people and the customs and the etiquette of the community. So, conflict. There were the conflicts. Then moving to the words and the meaning. And now moving to the vocabulary words and their meanings. Starting with the first word, disgraced. Disgraced. To have caused the loss of honor or respect. Progress. An advance or growth, development, improvement. Promoted. Raised in rank, condition of importance. Relish. A side dish to add flavor to food. Retreat. The act of withdrawing. Revolting. Disgusting. Repulsive. Unison. Together or as one. So you got all the meanings now of the words. All what I need from you is to finish the pages which are in the weekly plan and to send them to me on Classroom or on the mail, okay? Thank you so much. See you. Bye.